Plenty of chairs. My name is Ed Roth, and I'm the Vice President of Beaches Watch. I want to introduce you to the actual power behind Beaches Watch. Sandy Dooley.
There's lots of seats up front, so anybody who, don't be afraid. I'm sure Chief won't bite you, shoot you, taser you, or any of that stuff. So he doesn't even have a taser, so you can come sit up front. Oh, good, my lovely husband is going to sit up front. My better half. Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Sandy Golding, and I'm president of Beaches Watch. For those of you who are not familiar with Beaches Watch, we are a nonprofit and nonpartisan citizen organization. We were formed in 2004, so this coming January, we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. Our focus is on educating and engaging citizens in the issues that come before our elected officials here at the beaches, because we want to make sure that decisions are being made with input of all of the people who live here at the beach. So we do things like these monthly meetings with speakers that are talking about topics that are of interest to our beaches community, and that's why we have Chief Dooley here tonight. I want to point out a few things before we get started. We have some elected officials here. To start with Jack's Beach, we've got City Councilor Keith Doherty. I'm trying to think, do we have any other current sitting councilors? I don't think we do. Well, no, for Jack's Beach, I do want to recognize him. Right, but for Jacksonville Beach, we recognize our former elected officials too that are with us tonight. Councilman Lee Buck, former Councilman Lee Buck, and former Councilman Rick Knight. Where did he go? So we thank you guys for being here as well. From Atlantic Beach, we've got Mayor Pro Tem Maria Mark. Is it Pro Tem? Is that correct? Okay, Maria. And then we have Commissioner Jonathan Doherty. Then from Neptune Beach, we have Mayor Harry Pruitt. And we have Councilor Scott Wiley. Okay, did I miss anybody? Because usually I miss somebody. All right, and also I hope you picked up a copy of an agenda when you got here tonight. It's got some dates and information that we hope you'll take home with you to remind you of things that are coming up. And also on the back, it's got phone numbers for all of our beaches elected officials, including our Jacksonville representative, who is now the City Council President for Jacksonville, and our school board and state representative. And speaking of Bill Gulliford, just want you to please mark your calendars for our September 4th meeting at 7 o'clock, which will be here in the community room. We will have Jacksonville City Council President Bill Gulliford here. September, of course, is a very, very important time because Jacksonville's working on their budget, and considering the situation with the potential closure of the library and all the other budget cuts that are being discussed, we think it's timely that the council president will be here to talk to us about what's going on in Jacksonville and how it impacts the beaches. So he will be here, so we hope that you all will plan to be here as well.
Sandy, I have petitions that they haven't signed.
Okay, if anybody is interested, there are petitions in support of saving the library, not just the Jack's Beach Library, but it's Save Jack's Libraries, which I have it on the agenda, that there's an independent taxing district that's been proposed, and that's what these petitions are for. And Susie can talk to you about it, answer any questions that you might have at the end of the meeting, and she's got petitions here, so be sure and stop and see her if you haven't signed the petition and you're interested. Also, we want to let you know about the Jacksonville Beach Art Walk, which is going to be the first the first art walk, and I don't know, John, do you want to say something about it? John McGowan is involved in organizing the art walk.
Yeah, it's part of an ongoing project we're doing to try and help downtown Jacksonville Beach and help turn that area around. So every Tuesday night we're going to be doing something. The first thing we're rolling out is starting this Tuesday night is our inaugural art walk that's going to occur on the second Tuesday of every month. It's going to be August 13th from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. Come on out. We've got over 30 artists already signed up. We've got about 15 businesses. It's going to be along First Street, right there between Beach Boulevard and 5th, and we're going to have a few of the side streets included as well. It'll be a great event, great family-friendly event for getting y'all out there and back in the downtown area down there.
Good, that sounds great. Thank you. Also, Beaches Watch is hosting a candidate forum on Wednesday, August 14th for the Atlantic Beach candidates. For anybody that's here that lives in Atlantic Beach, hopefully you know that there's an election August 27th, and you will be electing a new mayor and 2 commissioners. So Beaches Watch will have our candidate forum at the Atlantic Beach Elementary School at 7 o'clock on the 14th, and it's always a good opportunity to hear the candidates and learn more about the candidates before voting. And then we've got some information on here. You can watch our prior meeting videos because we do video our meetings now. We have a YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out. And we encourage you to renew your membership if you haven't, or if you haven't joined. We always welcome new members because our membership is only $10 for individuals, $15 for families, and it just helps continue to support what we're doing. And then I'd also like to recognize Mayor Charlie Latham, who just came in. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our guest speaker for tonight, former Commander Dooley. I keep wanting to say Commander Dooley, so now it's Chief Dooley. And please come up, and we appreciate you being here.
Everybody for having me here and to represent the department. A couple things real quick. This is my first time speaking to this group as the chief. I was appointed back in May, as you all remember, in a very short period of time before we had a very, very exciting summer, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. And we'll get to all those kinds of points. But I'm really excited about where our agency is at right now and where we're going in the future. Some things that are happening right now. Last night was the first time that we had what we call a National Night Out, and it was an extremely successful event. We had this down at Sunshine Park. It's an event that's sponsored nationally by Target stores, and we actually had 3 stores that sponsored our event last night in Jacksonville Beach, and it was the store in South Jacks Beach, the one at Hodges and Beach Boulevard, and then the Town Center store for Target sponsored this event. It's an opportunity for us, the police department, and all of our employees and volunteers to kind of get out and interface with the community a little bit, answer questions, show you what we can do, explain to you what we can't do sometimes and why. Be there to answer your questions so that we take us kind of out of that car and get the opportunity to interact with people. That's one of the things that I really want to do a lot more of with our officers. And some of the things that you may be starting to see, we're already moving in that direction. We're starting to get our bicycle patrol going again for outlying areas, not just in the downtown area, but this is going on in the neighborhoods as well. And we're working on making sure that that's happening more and more. So you're going to see those officers riding bicycles through your neighborhoods in addition to being in the cars. So feel free to stop them and say hello to them and find out what their names are and those kinds of things, because we want them to be able to answer the problems or issues that you may be having in your neighborhood and make us aware of them. And that's what we're trying to do, is break down those barriers, get the windows down in the cars, and have the officers talk to people. That's how we're going to solve problems, working together. This is budget time for the police department and the whole city of Jacksonville Beach. And, wow, the pressure's really on because both of my bosses are here tonight. This is different, but interesting. And, you know, we're in a very fortunate place this year. Our budget, our proposed budget, it hasn't been approved by council yet, but we're not looking at any kind of cuts or anything in the police department, no cutbacks. Everything's going to pretty much stay status quo for us, which I'm very happy about. And in addition to that, in May, we were actually funded another position. We were given a corporal position by the Community Redevelopment Agency for our downtown CAPE program. So we're real excited now. Now we have a total of 5 officers down there, 4 patrol officers and a corporal. So we have some supervision down there, which is a good thing. And I hope you're seeing more and more of them as we go as well. But we're doing a lot of different things. We've got a lot of things that are starting to happen. Of course, we had, like I said, an interesting summer. But one of the things that's about right around the corner for us, the police department, and we're working on, as we speak, paid parking, as we're getting through the summer here. That contract that we currently have with the vendors there is expiring, and the pilot program is going to be something that we're going to be having the council look at now. They're going to start giving us some new direction and options. We'll present options to them. They'll be making some decisions here in the next upcoming months as to where we're going long-term with the paid parking program. So that's something that is happening in the police department right now. And we're excited about that. We also have the Citizen Police Academy, obviously, that's going on. We continue to do 2 of those academies every year. Right now we have over 867 graduates, so we're really, really proud of the volunteers, and I see there's a couple folks here that do volunteer for the agency, and they are so very important to us. They volunteered last year over 11,000 hours to the police department, and if you put a dollar sign to that, it's huge. And the things that I talked to many people last night at the National Night Out, and I'm just shocked at how much those people give back to not just the police department, but to the community. It's amazing their level of dedication, and they do it for one reason, and one reason alone, and that's because they care about the community. So I'm indebted to them very, very much. They're really a part of our family there at the police department. A couple other little things. Right now, last couple of days, for whatever reason, we bring up Memorial Day, an incident that occurred on Memorial Day. This has all of a sudden become another issue in the media in the last couple of days. And I want to say candidly that the police department is done investigating that issue. It is a suspended case. The people that were involved in that issue and all the witnesses, no one will talk to us. And I'm here to tell you that. I don't care what our victim's attorney says anymore. They will not cooperate. We are going to move on as a police department. We've been very successful throughout the summer, and we're going to keep moving in that direction. Our downtown area, I'm so proud of the way it looks. It is a beautiful, beautiful downtown area. We were able to get a lot of help this past summer with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office helping us on Sunday afternoons to maintain the crowd control that we were looking for to make sure that we didn't have any further issues after Memorial Day. And I do want to say one thing about that incident. It was very unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it was a fight. We do have fights down there from time to time. They occur. But it wasn't the triple shooting or this kind of thing that the media would like to have made it out to be. And at the end of the day, these folks started an issue in another part of the city of Jacksonville, brought it out here, continued it, and then they all went home. They left us with the aftermath. And when I say us, I mean the community. And it's not just Jacksonville Beach, but I think all of the beaches bear a little bit of that. And it was very unfortunate. But I think the way the community responded to that, really, I applaud the community for that, because they were so supportive of the way the officers responded, and they did do the right things. Every single officer that responded out there that day and over the past weekends of that event did the right thing. They did it for the right reasons, and I'm very, very proud of the way that they handled themselves, because that could have been a very bad situation, and had we reacted improperly, we would have been creators of that bad situation. So, as bad as it was, it could have been a whole lot worse for us if the police would have not responded in the method that they did. So I'm very, very proud of those officers. We have a great group of people that work for this police agency. I'm so proud, A, that I've worked with them for as many years as I have, and seeing those officers grow. And of course, I've been fortunate enough in my career at Jax Beach to have opportunities to continue to move up as well. And we want to continue that for this agency. We continue our nationally accredited now. We've been for almost 16 years now. We're very, very proud of that as well. So I know that there are a ton of questions, because I've already had a lot of questions asked to me so far about what we've done over the summer. So some of those questions will lead us into other conversations with servers. So do we have any? No. Jim.
Now that the city of Jacksonville Beach is in its budget process,
Yes, sir.
is it true that the police department has a shoot on site order for a guy by the name of George Forbes?
That's classified.
Then they don't get anything, Jim.
He keeps wanting me by a low-speed vehicle with lights on it. I don't know, I might get it for him just so he'll leave me alone for a little while. That could very well happen. Yeah, exactly. Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any particular things that the businesses and CBD have done to improve the image of Jacksonville Beach, or crowd control, or the operation of the businesses?
We have an interesting mix down there. A lot of the businesses down there revolve around alcohol, okay? And we have some very, very responsible businesses down there, business operators. We have some that are more responsible than others. We also have a community response team that works very closely with the beverage department to ensure that we have a municipal ordinance for alcohol permits after midnight. And there's a process. If they don't meet certain criteria, if they violations of the law, then we can take those individuals in front of the magistrate, and then the magistrate has the opportunity to rescind their alcohol license. We do have a business or two right now that are in the process of going in front of the magistrate for alcohol violations. So some are more responsible than others. But overall, the businesses have been very, very responsible. They want us to be successful, and we want them to be successful. The city and the businesses need each other, just as we need the community need the police. So we have to work hand in hand. Nobody wants a business to fail down there. But we have to make sure that the businesses that are operating within the guides of the law. And we're going to do that. It's very, very important to the success of all the businesses. So, yes, in answer to your question, the businesses are very responsive. And there's other things that are starting to happen in the downtown area too. I mean, things like the art walk. To me, that's an interesting thing. I'm very anxious to see how that turns out. I hope it draws the people and the crowds and the families that we're actually looking for. Those are good things. That's a community event. And I love it when we get the people from Jacksonville Beach or Neptune and Atlantic Beach to come out. That's fun, because people have a lot of respect for the community, and they don't come out to destroy things or to fight or things like that. So that's when it's a nice small town feel. So in answer to your question, yes, businesses are being responsible. I'm going to defer for 1 second because my former boss. So I'm going to call on the gentleman behind you, and I'll get to you next, I promise.
Thank you, Chief.
Bruce.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Thompson, in your opinion, has the proliferation of social media played a role in events like Memorial Day?
Without question. We all know. That was on YouTube, I think, before I probably even got the phone call. I was on my way before it was over, and I think it was already posted on YouTube. And those kinds of events, the media then feeds off of those things. It becomes almost a frenzy type environment, to the point where I had a person today refer to it as a brawl, the Jackson Beach brawl. If it would be okay corral or something like that. And I asked, I'm not clear what brawl are you speaking of. I mean, there was a fight that occurred, yes, and it was unfortunate, and it shouldn't have happened, and nobody wanted to put anybody in jail more than me at the end of the day. But, yes, the social media, they take that stuff and they run with it. And the Twitter comments and all those kinds of things that people involved, people that we believe were involved were making on their Twitter accounts and those kinds of things. It doesn't help our situation at all because they feed off it. We all know with the internet how quick it is and how people use it all the time. Sometimes it doesn't help us. So, absolutely. Questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I did promise.
Obviously, age comes before beauty.
That would be true,
I'm new to the beach. You mentioned something earlier about bicycle patrols. Is this something you're going to initiate? Where can we expect to see it if that's the case?
Well, it's already happening. It's not as many as we would like to have right now. We do have some personnel shortages. We've got about 5 shortages in the agency right now. So we have to make sure that we get enough officers out there that are trained, and then we can fill all the positions. The bicycle is some of the last stuff because we have to take care of our primary function, which is the actual patrol first, responding to calls for service. That is extremely important to us. But getting out in the neighborhoods is also important. So that's going to, you're seeing it, but we only have like one person a day right now.
And where, pray tell, are we seeing it?
All of the neighborhoods.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes.
And how many officers are involved?
Right now, we've got 2, one on each group. They ride by themselves, and they ride primarily during the daylight hours. And so it's 7 days a week, depending upon the weather.
Now, are they focused mostly east of
No. No. As a matter of fact, these particular officers are not. We have downtown Cape, and being new to the area, our downtown redevelopment area funds 5 positions in the police department. Okay, so those officers are solely responsible for that area. Our other officers do answer calls for services, such in that area, but we're also responsible for the rest of the city as well. The officers that I'm talking about on the bicycles for this particular program, I don't even want them going into the downtown area because I want them in the outlying areas, the neighborhoods there. The downtown Cape officers focus on that area, the immediate downtown area. They ride bicycles, segways, walking beats, ATVs, cars, so they do a multitude of different ways of transportation for them. But I wanted to get the bicycles into the neighborhoods for our residents, not just the visitors.
What do those guys cost us?
Pardon me?
What do those guys cost us?
Which guys are you referring to?
What does it cost us to put an officer on a bicycle?
Well, it's the same cost as a police officer short the car, so it depends on
Well,
what
there's a difference in the price of the bike and the car.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, you know, the cost of the officer themselves, salary and benefits, we average around $45,000 to $55,000 for an officer.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll look back.
I actually have 2 questions, kind of changing the topic here. You mentioned 2 things. One about the accreditation that your police departments received over the last 16 years, I believe. Could you elaborate on how that's been an advantage to you or to the police department, if any, or the importance of that? And then my second question is about the Citizens Police Academy. Right now, it's just in Jack's Beach, and you get citizens from all.
Yeah, we do accept people from Atlantic Beach,
Yes,
including Jacksonville.
Would you think that it would be advantageous to expand that program into other beaches, into the other beaches community, to have the same, similar?
Yeah, to answer your second question first.
Okay.
I know that Chief Classy we've spoken about the Citizen Police Academy. He's realized some of the benefit that we're seeing from him. We talk about it fairly regularly. And if I'm not mistaken, one of his sergeants has been involved in the current class, kind of watching what's happening and talking to our instructors and finding out how we do it and all of the ins and outs of it. We've been doing it for quite a while now, so we actually have what we believe, and kind of floating here, what we believe is one of the better programs in the state, certainly. And we certainly have one of the highest number of graduates that come back and volunteer for the agency. So he's definitely looking at that. I know that he is. We've spoken of that. And then, as far as your first question goes, I'm going to ask you to repeat. I'll make sure.
About the accreditation,
Right,
and how important that is or not to.
Okay. From my perspective,
What's the question, Pat?
it was how important do we feel that the accreditation process is for Jacksonville Beach Police? And I'm speaking only for Jacksonville Beach Police. It has been extremely beneficial to this agency for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's a very difficult process, somewhat report-driven. But what those reports do are they make us continually look inside for self-improvement. It makes sure that we're doing all of the things that we should be doing to maintain our high standards, that we're looking at how our officers act, how well they're trained. If we do get a citizen complaint, how do we handle those complaints? With accreditation, the way that we handle, for instance, a citizen complaint, there are steps that we have to take. Agencies sometimes, if you don't have the standards that we have to live up to on a regular basis and are inspected by an outside entity such as CALEA, tend to say, well, we're really, really busy right now, so we're not going to do it that way. We're just going to kind of maybe do it this way with it. That's not necessarily the best way, but sometimes it becomes an easier way. That sometimes tends to snowball in some agencies. accreditation has a cost. It's expensive. But the cost benefit to that is that I believe that it has made Jacksonville Beach one of the most respected law enforcement agencies in Northeast Florida. It keeps us always looking inside, keeps us up to date with all the things that are going on nationwide, not just in Northeast Florida or Florida, but we're getting input from all over the country on how the best ways of doing processes or doing our job is, and the policies that we have, are they up to date? Sometimes policy manuals tend to sit on a shelf and and become antiquated, and well, that's not really what we do. Well, in our agency, if it's in a policy, that's how we do it. If the policy doesn't work, we change it. But there's a process for that, and it's not always just because it's the easy way to do something. It has to be the right way. And those are the things that accreditation keeps us doing. There is also a monetary benefit because of the standards that we meet. It makes it much more difficult in a lot of cases for an agency to be sued. Not that they can't be, because anybody can sue anybody. But because we're doing things, generally speaking, by best practices, it makes us a little bit less of a target-rich environment. So when we have somebody who wants to sue us for some reason, if we've done everything, checked all the boxes and made sure that we've done everything correctly, done everything properly, done due diligence, we're much less apt to be sued for whatever it may be. So it has a definite benefit. I'm a big proponent of it. I would fight tooth and nail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment first and then several questions about one of your operations, I think is one of your operations. My comment is that I would just like to applaud y'all for doing such a great job on the 4th of July. You were there and right out in the middle in front of the theater parking lot, and I saw you and several other officers, and I felt very safe. And I luckily got to sit right there by the left of the pier where the fireworks were shooting off, and it was great. And the only instance somebody started shooting fireworks, and y'all were right on top of that, came right there and warned them.
Well, good. I'm glad you had fun.
So
that was our goal.
I had a good time, I felt safe. And then the other questions I have are related to the little vehicle that goes up and down the beaches. I wondered, well, I guess I'm assuming that they're there to monitor any kind of problems and, perhaps tell people they can't have their dogs on the beach, or perhaps tell people they cannot drink alcohol on the beach, or whatever other infraction they might be doing. I've seen them warning about the dogs, not necessarily about the alcohol ordinance, but I wondered, what is the schedule for that? Because sometimes I go down there and there's never see them at all, and other times I go down there and see them going up and down, up and down. So I just wondered, is there a regular schedule for that? And number two question was, does anybody ever issue any kind of tickets for
Yes.
people that violate the ordinances?
Yes. Our animal control tickets are up about 300% over what they were a couple of years ago. The animal control officer actually spends a lot of time on the beach. We also have part of our Citizen Police Academy alumni that help us with the beach patrol. They don't necessarily have the ability to write citations, but they do ask people, please don't have your dog on the beach, or if you have your dog, make sure that it's on the leash during the proper times, those kinds of things. They do that as a volunteer basis. As far as a set schedule, there is not a set schedule. That's one of the basic things in the police work. You don't want to go by a pattern or a schedule. Because we do, I want to come by your house at 10:04 and then 10:08, the bad guy's going to be there. So we don't do a definite pattern or schedule to anything that we do. And a lot of what we do too is that when it is involving the citizens, the civilians that we have, the volunteers, they're volunteers. We can't set them on a set schedule. That wouldn't be fair to them. They're volunteering their time, and when they can come in, they do. And they're very, very diligent about it. The number of hours they get is incredible. And it's the same thing basically for the police officers. We have days off, shifts rotate, those kinds of things. So it does vary, it fluctuates. There may be some times that you don't see anybody, and then there may be those times that you're seeing somebody all the time. We try to have our officers out and very visible during the times that we feel we're going to have the biggest impact. Okay, does that make sense? Okay.
It seems like whenever we get together as a community and we have a dialogue or whatever, 95% of the time the discussion is about downtown.
Yes, sir.
We never talk about what's going on in Ocean Forest or Hannah Terrace. It's always what's happening in downtown. And John McGowan had just said a minute ago, he said, well, I'm going to try and, his group is going to try and turn downtown around. When you drive at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, if you drive through the town center in Atlantic and Neptune Beach and see the people out there and whatnot, and then drive down to Jacksonville Beach, it's 180 degrees opposite. So it seems like our downtown area is like an entertainment district, for lack of a better word.
Yes, sir.
Everybody down there is selling alcohol or beer, and if they're not, they wish they had a license or something. And we've got 4 Cape officers down there. Well, 5 with the supervisor.
Yes, sir.
And they're mainly on foot patrol.
They vary, they fluctuate, but yes.
But our best asset for them is to be on basically, on foot.
Foot patrol segways, they mix it up. They really do. It depends on the day of the week and how busy things are, where they need to be.
In the late 70s and early 80s, I was an aircraft company I worked for put me up there in New York, and every single night I went down to Manhattan to, have a good time. And what was going on the sidewalks was just the most remarkable thing that you could ever see. I was just a hillbilly from Jack's Beach, and now I'm up there in Manhattan, and there was like no laws. You could do anything you want on the sidewalks. And the officers, 2 to a car, would drive by just like almost as fast as they could, and it seemed like they would avert their eyes. They didn't want to see what was going on the sidewalk. And then I think it was the Mayor Giuliano that wanted to turn this around, and he got everybody out of the car. He said, get out of the car, arrest people for urinating in public continually, one after another, arrest them for this infraction, that infraction, make them uncomfortable doing what it is they've been doing. So Monday night, you had said you had discussed about having a volunteer program to have some officers that were volunteer auxiliary officers.
Reserve police officers.
Reserve,
Yes.
that were going to ride in the car with an officer.
Or walk.
So that's what I'm leading up to, is it seems like, it's our best advantage to have, set a goal. What are we trying to achieve downtown by policing downtown? Are we trying to just keep everybody off the sidewalk? We're trying to keep them drunk inside the bar? We've got to set some sort of parameters, an ultimate goal. John McGowan said, let's have an art walk down there for, families and whatnot. And as a family, I hardly ever go downtown, take my grandkids or anything. 1, parking's a problem. 2, don't like paid parking, but, we all know that's an issue. But, even I think if you put a Chuck E. Cheese downtown, close one of the bars. Keith could probably make more money with Chuck E. Cheese or selling out So if it was going to be a family place, a businessman would invest dollars down there and say, I could make a killing if I could just open a Chuck E. Cheese down here. So it's like New York City did it, slowly but surely. It helps solve some of the homeless problem. I know now we write a little citation for somebody for court appearance.
Depends on what the offense is.
Depends on what the offense is, but if we arrest somebody, we have to take that officer off the street.
Correct.
And he has to eventually take the person downtown.
Yes, sir.
And, since we had our own jail at one time, located right where the drugstore is on Beach and 3rd. So it wasn't a far, man. You can put them in jail and get right back on your beat. So it seems like we just don't have enough assets downtown in the district, which is like 90% of our problems, I guess. It's a little downtown district. And it seems like there's some sort of happy medium to be able to put as many down there as proactive rather than being reactive. Right now, it's like, there's a fight. Let's go. So proactive seems to be...
That you're accurate to a point, and I like what you're saying, but we do a lot of proactive work down there. We have, during the summer months, we put task force officers out there. Now, those officers are paid overtime to come in on their days off or after hours to help augment those specific officers that are assigned to that downtown area. For instance, Memorial Day, when this all took place, there were four or five officers that were on duty, and then we had another 5 that were down there on overtime on task force. And that's paid for by a grant portion of it, and then the other portion of that is paid for by the CRA. So we are down there doing a lot of proactive things. Most of these notice of appears that you're talking of, or the arrests that we make, most of those are on-viewed calls in that downtown area. So we are addressing those quality of life crimes. Quality of life crimes such as fighting and things like that, they go downtown. And the reason for that is that I don't personally feel that if I tell an officer to write a citation for a breach of peace or a fray in public, that's solving the problem. Because that same individual who was just fighting in public 2 minutes ago is going to get a ticket and he's going to walk away. That doesn't solve the problem. To me, the solving that problem is removing that individual from the environment. And it also is going to send a message to his friends that might be drinking too much and want to fight, that if you behave this way, there's a consequence, and that consequence is jail. So we do send that message. But we also have to kind of gauge that with the fact that we do take those officers off the street. So there's a level of what is the balance between writing the tickets and actually taking every person to jail. There has to be some kind of medium there, because we can't take 10 of those officers and send them downtown, obviously. So we do issue a lot of citations, and from the 1st of March through the 4th of July weekend, we had about 600 arrests in the downtown area. 400 of those, 490 I believe, were notice to appears. Most of those are for drinking in public, and a lot of them are on the beach. So we do a lot of the citations, but we also do a lot of the arrests. There is a balance there to that, but we do a lot of proactive. And that one of the reasons that I was talking about the bicycles is because I think it's important that the residents know that they are important and that we are policing those areas as well. It's much more difficult for us to have walking beats and things like that when we're on the outlying areas, because we're still responding to calls for service. And we are busy outside of the downtown area as well. But we'll have 3 or 4 officers working the whole city, and they're going call to call as well. So there's a lot going on, and we're doing the best to keep that balance without pulling all the officers off the street, while still addressing those quality of life issues that you're talking about. Does that make sense? Does it answer your question at all? Sir?
In reading the Beaches Leader or hearing things from my friends, I don't hear of any crime or bad things happening at night on the beach itself. Is that a wrong perception I have, or is it pretty right?
No, it varies. I'm not going to say that bad things don't happen on the beach at night, because they do. But we also patrol that beach at night as well, and we patrol it early in the morning hours as well. So we don't abandon the beach when it gets dark, because there's a lot of people that still go down there. And things do happen. And sometimes, I assume you're talking about what's in the police blotter type thing in the paper. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Those are just snippets from calls for service and things that we actually do. So there may be things that go on the beach that aren't necessarily published in the paper. That doesn't mean they don't happen. Media looks at those calls for service and they decide what little snippets they're going to put in the paper. It's not always, to me, a true depiction of what's really going on either. But I don't want to paint the illusion that it's crazy down there on the beach. Don't go to the beach after dark, because that's not true. But you have, just like anywhere else, you have to use good common sense when you go out.
Well, I've lived here for 10 years and I've never been there at night.
Stars are great.
Hang on a second. Go ahead.
The notice to appear, what happens if they don't appear?
If they don't appear, that's a good question. If they don't appear, then a judge will issue a warrant for their arrest, and then the next time we contact them, we run their name, they have a warrant for their arrest, then it's a no option. They can carry it down there and go in front of the judge, and they can explain to the judge why they didn't take care of their ticket. You have a question also?
I applaud Jacksonville Beach. We happen to live in Neptune Beach. And so, of course, we are geared up for 4th of July. had 100+ officers, from what I understand.
121.
Yeah. We had 15, and then, of course, 4 or 5 of them got locked into a balcony. Do you have any suggestions for a beach-wide, I mean, you don't have any jurisdiction in Neptune Beach, but we need help. I mean, we really need help, because everybody came, I mean, I think they all knew you had geared up. So it was the worst down in 20 years.
Here's the way that our mutual aid agreements work.
Yeah.
Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, and Neptune Beach, we all have a mutual aid agreement. And we've had to recently change our mutual aid agreement with the sheriff's office because technicalities with that. But if Neptune Beach asks us to come up here and help them, or Atlantic Beach, just like when they come down here to help us, we absolutely have jurisdiction here. If they ask for our help or request us for a special event, same thing when we have a special event, the air show or something like that, we bring their officers in, they have authority as well. We anticipated a lot of problems because this was the first time that we were bringing back fireworks, and I'll be very, very honest with you. I may have gone overkill, I don't know, I don't think so, but I would rather overly plan for it than underly plan for it. Because the last thing that I wanted to happen in our city was a reoccurrence of what happened on Memorial Day in the city with any kind of bad publicity. So our 4th of July this year was probably the best 4th of July that I've experienced since I've lived here. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being very, very honest. That goes right down to the number of residents that were drinking in public. Our residents drink in public on the 4th of July. They do. They do. And we write notes to appears to them doing that. But this year, there was much less of that than I've ever seen before. And the people were nice to each other. There wasn't the hostile attitude. Now, I'm not sure what created that. Maybe it was the mayor going on TV as much as he did and saying, if you're going to be out here, you better behave or the police are going to get you. That's okay. I'll take that. Great. Kudos to the mayor for saying that. But as with Neptune coming down and helping us whenever we've had a problem, we will never say no to another law enforcement agency that's requesting our help. That includes the sheriff's office in Jacksonville or St. Johns County or anywhere else for that matter. We have those mutual aid agreements in place. They're firm. We have the jurisdiction authority just as they do. So, maybe some of the crowd was displaced. I don't know. We had a lot of parties in Jacksonville Beach too, but we also had a lot of people in that downtown area. So I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I don't know if you did or not.
I think the question was, do we have authority? The short answer is yes. If we're asked, we have authority, and we'll always help. Yes.
Do you think you'll be able to maintain that level of officers for next 4th of July?
It will be difficult. Well, the day of the week wasn't as important as the fact, but it is important, but as far as maintaining that level, I had to beg, borrow, and steal from every law enforcement executive in Northeast Florida to get that big policeman here, and including the highway patrol. And they were all great, but they knew that we had some special circumstances that we were trying to regulate. Now, let me also add to that, though. The sheriff has always been extremely good and generous about providing people to us for special events, and specifically the traffic side of this. Without the sheriff's office traffic personnel helping us, this would have been a disaster, because they gave us, I believe, about 35 people just for traffic. And there were also traffic officers from the sheriff's office, I think, working in Neptune and Atlantic Beach, helping facilitate the traffic. And then all the way to, I want to say, St. John's Bluff, to get them going, keep them going west.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just turn the lights on green and go. And, that's essentially what they do for us. But this year, they also gave us a good number downtown as well. We had task force officers and the gang task force. And then we had the regular task force officers. We had 25 of them as well. So we had a lot of that. We do this on our own. We have 61 people now.
That's been the problem in the past, and
it is.
What's going to happen?
And I'm not going to lie to you. 4th of July is an expensive day for not just me, But the sheriff's office, they had the landing to deal with as well. And for anyone who ever deals with union contracts and those kinds of things, you know, working on a holiday, those guys get paid well. Everyone is. While getting paid well, so it's expensive. It's an expensive day. I saw some hands. I'm sorry, Rick Knight had his hand up.
I just want to make a couple of comments. There's really no question being asked. But back to the accreditation. Okay, businesses have profit margins to gauge how they're doing in their business. A police department doesn't. So there's been a gauge set. Now, does it meet the exact criteria for every police department? No, it doesn't. But it meets a minimum, and it's up for each police department to go above that where they need to. So without being credited, how in the world do you know you're even coming close to the mark of what the citizens deserve for the police department?
And that's a really good point. And one thing that I will add to that, and this is not to my credit, this is to Bruce Thompson's credit. The agency that I'm lucky enough to be a part of, we were the flagship agency through CALEA, which is the National Accreditation Board, essentially. We were named a flagship agency, meaning that we had met more standards than anyone else that year. And then in the last accreditation, just before I took over, we went through the gold standard, which was a new and difficult way of going through it, but we were awarded the award of accreditation with meritorious awards. So for our past several accreditation programs that we've gone through, we have been given a lot of extra accolades in addition to just meeting the minimum standards of being nationally accredited. We've gone above and beyond that. And that's the goal that I have personally for the agency in the future, is to maintain that level of professionalism. And that's what it comes down to, is that it's those checks and balances, and that we're providing the best level of service to our customers, you, for what you're paying for. We're doing the best that we can in every case, and making sure that we're doing the right thing for the right reason all the time. So that's what accreditation is, part of it. I'm sorry, Rebecca.
Well, I just got two other comments. I just won't get lost in the emotion. But I don't think there's many people in this city that walks the beach more than I do. And I walk it early in the morning. And I've been doing it solidly for 3 years now, except for the month I was out last month. But I can tell a difference in the activity that happens at night, because I get down there before the beach is cleaned in the morning by beachcombers. And I can tell y'all, there's a lot less beer cans, a lot less beer bottles, a lot less of the stuff. Now, I've seen a couple of things this week, but that was not a bad thing, what I saw. But it shows that people are using the beach at night, and I don't believe there's as much problem as used to be. You can ask Bruce, I was not above calling in. When I saw people I knew had been there, they know the schedules y'all check. Obviously now, I believe y'all are shaking up the schedule.
Yes, we are shaking up the schedule.
So that they can't wait till, they're going to be by 10:30. 10:30 y'all go through and they camp out.
Exactly.
And back to the bar scenes, as most people knew, I did a lot of research down there before we passed the alcohol ordinances. People, you got to understand, we'll have 8,000 to 10,000 people down there, and 2-3 people can't behave themselves. They get in a fight, and who's the news media? I'm going to say this, and it's not trying to be polite, but I'm going to say it. I've always said it, and most people know me, know I don't care. But I'd rather have a sister work in a house of ill repute than a brother that works for the news media. I'd have more respect for what they do for a living. Because all they want to do is slam and shame, and they don't care about the 10,000 people that behave. They only want to bring out the 2 or 3 that got upset because somebody looked cross-eyed at his gal friend, and he don't think he's man enough to hold it.
Right.
And that's all my comments.
We got very little publicity about how well the 4th of July.
That's right. That's right.
But boy, we sure got a lot of bad publicity for 30 seconds.
That's right.
So I not only hear what you're saying, I have felt what you're saying for quite some time.
I have felt for you the whole time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get everybody. Yes, ma'am.
So I just moved here back to Jacksonville. I moved away for about 7 years, and coming back, I've noticed that there are changes, like the downtown looks wonderful and looks
It is
great.
pretty.
Are there any changes in a rise in crime, or is there a decline in crime over, let's say, the last
There's
5 years?
actually, in Jacksonville Beach, there has been a decrease in crime in the last year. It's slight, but it's slowly going down. But like Bruce Thomason just said, one of the things that's so interesting about our crime statistics now is although technically crime is going down, things appear that they're worse because every little thing seems to make it on either social media or into the media, and it's blown into something that might not really be. And sometimes you can feel volumes what you don't read in the newspapers.
One of the reasons I'm asking is we moved back at the beginning of the year and immediately saw in the news the Memorial Day incident, and it sounds like it was an isolated incident. But my husband and I are concerned as far as safety down here.
Sure.
So it's on decline.
Overall, it is. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
You may like this question because it doesn't have anything to do with downtown fights.
Thank you.
As a block captain for our local area, I make a habit of trying to drive around the neighborhood and drive different streets each day when I'm coming and going and everything. 2 questions. The first one was on 6th Avenue the other day.
North or south?
North.
Okay.
I noticed there was something going on in the house, and there was an evidence van and about 5 police cars. Was it necessary to have that many officers there for whatever was going on there? I mean, was there like a gang war going on or something?
I don't know. But I will tell you,
SWAT training.
SWAT training. It was, was that the SWAT training thing? Okay.
Oh, was that what it was?
It was a training exercise.
Okay.
But in answer to your question, there are times that you will see 6, 7 police cars at a location at a given time in that evidence technician van. And depending upon what has happened, yes, it possibly is necessary. If it's a crime scene and they have to process it, there's a lot of things that go along with that. You have people that actually process the scene. You might have the investigators that are there. You're going to have a supervisor or 2 on the scene. Possibly myself or one of the other commanders might be there. There are a lot of things that go into that, so that is possible in certain cases.
That answers the question. I was a little worried because I was afraid to continue to drive.
Okay, that is actually a couple houses that the city owns, and we were doing some training in those houses, doing building searches in those
May I ask
houses.
you another question?
Yes, sure.
This one you're going to remember, I've asked you because I called in about it. I grew up in Gonzales, playing in Gonzales Park. I've lived at the beach my whole life. A couple of months ago, I took my grandchildren down there to play in that park. Well, actually, I started quite a while ago. I noticed that the bums had occupied it, so I called in, and I believe some officers came and ran them off. But for those of us that use all the rest of Jacksonville Beach, not downtown or the beaches or whatever, is there a concerted effort to make the residential parts of Jacksonville Beach, including the parks, a little more family friendly? Because Gonzales Park is not family friendly right now. I wouldn't even let kids play. My grandkids, I just took them and put them back on. Is there something we can do about that?
We do a lot of extra patrols at all the parks, and each shift the officers do go through and check the parks, and they're looking for those kinds of specific problems. If you see something that you're uncomfortable with, I ask that you call us, because obviously we're not everywhere at once and can't be. But that's where it's important to say you're a block captain, and it's important that you pick up the phone and let us know those things that are making you uncomfortable so that we can address those issues. If you don't get the answer or the response that you feel you deserve, then you need to let me know that or one of the other supervisors. But understand that there are some things, as far as it relates to homeless and things like that, we're going to contact people, but we can't necessarily in every case make people leave because we don't like the way they look. So we have to be very cognizant of those kinds of issues. I understand what you're saying, and in most cases we are going to definitely be contacting those people. In some cases we can even ask them, hey, would you mind going somewhere else because you are making people uncomfortable. At Gonzalez Park specifically, I happen to drive by there a lot during the lunch hour, just because I go out and drive around, and I'll stop and if there's somebody in there, and I'll tell them, hey, would you mind maybe going somewhere else? You mind doing that? And chances are they usually will do what I ask them to do, but I can't necessarily make them do it. And so it's kind of a touchy situation, but if you're uncomfortable with something, I do ask that you call, and we will go out and we'll address those individuals.
Well, I know George is going to get tired of hearing from me because he's already started handing me off to the Parks and Recreation.
Well, you can actually call my agency because Parks and Rec can't really do anything about that part of it either. So
the part I was calling them about was the fact that the homeless sit there and smoke, and all around the pavilions there are just piles of cigarettes. So my kids, who I would like otherwise to allow to be able to walk around and play and pick up stones and rocks and things and play with them, I won't even let them touch the ground down there because it's just filthy. So that's when it's when he handed me all this Parks and Recreation. I know you can't do anything about that. So
well,
you do
not necessarily.
Sitting there smoking.
Well, it's not necessarily because you know what? Honest to God, and I've been a policeman for almost 34 years in September. I've not had somebody mention that issue to me, but now that someone has, I'll make them pick up their cigarette butts, and I'll tell the officers to.
No smoking signs.
Can you put no smoking area?
Not really.
Not really.
It says pavilions there that also offer the shade.
Right. So I'm trying to go as people, I've seen the hands go up. I know you keep raising your hand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. In the holiday season coming up, if you could ask Santa Claus for a couple of things that would help you and the agency serve the community better, what would be at the top of your list? And I know your bosses are here and you may want to keep it between you and Santa Claus.
Professionally, Santa Claus doesn't exist in the city.
Since the Grinch is about Christmas decorations. Sit next to him.
We all about the Grinch.
Let's be very honest, okay? And I am wearing my police chief hat. I'm not going to be politically correct or anything like that. As a police chief, I'd love to have more people. There's no question. I'd love to improve our technology. Those are things, all of which are extremely costly. Those are two of the most expensive things in law enforcement. And here's what I tell the officers, because that's always their wish too. If you look at our equipment, and I have worked for departments where I actually had to have a board on the passenger's floorboard of the car because when it was so rusted, when I went through a puddle, the water would come up through the hole. That's how bad, and I'm not kidding, that is a true story. We don't always get what we want, but I have never seen this agency go without something that we need. And so, I'm always going to have a Christmas list, as you say, but I do work for the Grinch. Somebody has to say no to me. He's very good at it. But we do get what we need. And I'm making a joke, but at the same time I'm stressing that we don't always get everything I want, or the officers want. But we have what we need to provide the level of service that our customers expect us to provide. So, although I'd love more, a lot more, we get what we need.
He keeps us in the black.
Yes.
Amen.
How much do those concrete electric poles cost?
We don't have to worry about this there right now.
I'll ask that for you after the meeting.
I've got to say this, and that is, I've got 5 grandkids and I think we've got the greatest school system, whether it be Atlantic Beach, Neptune, or Jacks Beach. I think we've got great teachers, and we've got a great police department. And there have been a lot of legitimate issues mentioned tonight, but I'd like to say what's good about Jacks Beach also, and that is, I'm very proud of everything you go on.
Well, thank you very much. But only on behalf of the people that do all the work out there every day and night. Because these officers, and I'm going to be very, very candid with you, after Memorial Day, They darn near killed themselves on the number of hours that they worked. And not one time to a person did I hear any of them complain. And they did it for one reason, because we asked them to. And I am so proud of them for that. And, sir.
I didn't mean to create a
That's okay.
thought. One thing I want to mention, the block captains and the homeowners associations and the church groups. Chief Dooley and I, once a month, do a town hall meeting. We've been through Pablo Towers, we've done the HUD Housing Office. This month we're doing Valencia, next month we're doing all the clergy in Jacksonville Beach. And we're just reaching out and get as much information as we can. If you're in a group that would like us to come in and talk to you about what your concerns are in your little local area, please get a hold of the chief. And so we can get you on the schedule and come in and talk to you and your neighbors and your friends. Particularly those of you that are new to the area. You know, we'd love to make you more aware of what kind of services are available.
Absolutely. Sir.
I'll try to keep it short. I've been in Jax Beach 6 years. I live at 9th North and 1st, so about 3 blocks north of the CBD, but in one of the large condos. We've actually had some of the officers in our living room sharing their thoughts with us. So from our place, we see it all on First Street. And I'm listening to all the observations and questions, and I guess I'd say a few things. One, as this gentleman said, there's never enough officers, but the response, we call, maybe once a quarter I'll call, because only when it's literally assaults or fights and showers in front of the place, or, I mean, again, we've seen some pretty bad things, and that's when we call, but the response time is 3 to 6 minutes. Luckily, the zone is small enough, and if you do have half a dozen more officers that close, the response time is very quick. So I would, again, applaud the department. As the gentleman to my right indicated, Jack Beach versus Neptune. In the beach community, you're going to have young people, party atmosphere, transient population, you know, a lot of perhaps renters. And, what I realized listening to it is true, myself included, and all of my neighbors, when we go out at night, we go left to Neptune. In 6 years, I could count on one hand the times I've eaten dinner in Jax Beach, and I live there. I'm not afraid, but I'm not going to have. And I've had officers tell me, people, you know, about the boardwalk, and they tell my wife, you do not walk on the boardwalk after dark. I certainly have a room there after dark. It's just a different vibe. I mean, and it's purely a function of accessibility, and there's more bars. It's a different type of bar, but it's the accessibility to the trails and the parking. It's gotten a lot better. Again, I've been there 6 years, and I like what they're doing. But that's that's what it is. It's Memorial Day, that empty lot to the left of me on between 9th and 10th. That was a large part of the problem. It's solved now because they're putting in new homes starting this week. It's fabulous. On the dog, every Saturday and Sunday we take the dogs over to the beach at 9:30. We pick up after them. My wife and I, we pick up trash. So, our little section of the beach, we leave it better than we got it. And the volunteers, to their credit, at 9 o'clock, here comes that cart. I see the headlights. They've never ridden up, which I guess, I found out they can't. I always leave when they ask me to. Yes, I can. They know that. At noon, we go back over to the beach to sit, and inevitably, crowded beach, people with their dogs. And that golf, I literally, in 6 years, have never seen the golf cart after 9:30 in the morning. Last Saturday, we were there, and the guy showed up in the large group and had a pit bull, very well trained for them, but running from the surf to the sand, Little kids coming up to it. And after an hour, someone was sitting next to me, someone I was with, called the police, and within 5 minutes, not just the police, as I understand it's animal control, animal control was there, and she was writing them up and getting that dog. So again, if you call, they respond. So I guess my thought is, yeah, if the volunteers would get in the car at noon and get these dogs off the beach instead of only at 9 o'clock in the morning. The very last, those were all observations. The last thing, a safety concern, again, on my balcony, I see for 6 years. Now in the CBD now, the bicyclists get the full lane, which is good because now the cruisers, they don't want to drive down there because it's not as much fun. But we've all been driving down First Street and the kids on the bikes, full lane light. And now I soon realize you don't want to pass them. Because one, someone's going to get hurt, or you're going to get, when I used to pass them, I've had my car hit, so that seems like low-hanging fruit. If the officers would write a few tickets, things like that, the word spreads like wildfire. If you get a ticket on a $200 ticket for your dog on the beach, or a $200 ticket for interfering with traffic outside the CBD, you're going to tell your friends, and I would think it would go a long, long way. Once in 6 years, I've seen an officer pull over someone for riding in front of them, and that's because two guys that have been drinking hit the car and cursed it out, and to my delight, I realized it was not a cop. And he was fingerprinting, and that was the only time. But it just seems like that's some low-hanging fruit that improves the quality of life.
And those are things that we do address. We don't maybe get, I kind of equate a lot of that kind of stuff like fishing and go fishing, timber too. And I don't think a lot of traffic stops personally. But I have stopped bicycles, and maybe that was you actually saw that day. Because I don't think it was a silver. Okay, but I mean, we do that from time to time. And now, do we get every one of them? Absolutely not. I understand everything like we do. But we do try to address problems as they come up like that. And there aren't any of the officers that don't get just as annoyed by the way that some of the bicycles behave in the street. And very often they don't even care if it's a marked car because they're still going to behave the same way in a lot of cases. And so they do get that low hanging fruit. I appreciate your comments, and I'll make sure that we look for those. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I want to thank Chief Dooley for coming out tonight and taking time to spend with us. The police department has been great. They've been doing this every year, and it's a great opportunity for people, as you can see, to learn more and interact with our police department. And so we appreciate everything that you guys do, and thank you for coming out tonight. I want to ask, I want to make one comment. I'm glad I'm not Rick Knight's sister.
She wishes she wasn't too.
But I do want to give an opportunity to Mayor Charlie Latham. Is there anything you'd like to announce while you're here? Anything?
Well, one thing I'd like to say, and I'm going to bite my lip because today's Pat's Day, but I'm very, very proud of the police department and everything they've been able to accomplish with the resources they have. I ran for office, everybody knows, a year ago, and I've been there 9 months, and I've been spewing this family-friendly and safe environment. And I'm learning a lot about the job, and I know we're making steps in the right direction. But one of the things that you have to understand is that there's people with rights that we can't just go in and violate their rights. There's people that own liquor licenses, there's people that have licenses and leases, and they own property. And if I had the ability to step back and say, I want J. Alexander's here, and I want this one to go away, and I want this one here, and this one to go away, I'd love to model it after Neptune Beach and Atlantic Beach and the nice little shops they have there. But that's not the hand we were dealt. So we've got to work diligently to make sure that we hold people accountable and find the right economic incentives to get the right businesses in, and we're working on that now. So it's a long process, it's not a quick fix. I'd love to tell you by next year this time it's all going to be squared away, but I will tell you this, with every minute that Keith and I are in office and the other members are in office and George is here with his staff, we're working to make it better every day.
Thank you. And Mayor Pruitt, do you have anything you'd like to add? Well,
announcements. As y'all all know, we had problems. In 30 years, I've never seen it worse. We're 20 blocks. 20 blocks. And of those 20 blocks, 18 of them are residential. We had one big drunken party, and it was all family friendly. Getting under control, and the reason being is basically in our hands. And we have to tone it down. And Mayor Alvin Brown last Friday called me and assured me that he would see to it that we would get what we needed. Whatever it was, we would get what we needed in regards to crowd control, and I'm going to hold him to it. We need it. We've got to contain it. We want people to come down and have a good time, but we've got to, for everybody's sake. But we are 18 blocks of residential, and I think one of our problems is we have so many renters, and they invite all their friends en masse, and they all get drunk, and then they go down to Jacksonville Beach. I agree with you. You've done an excellent job, especially with the relay down there. I mean, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, and you did an excellent job, and you couldn't have done it any better or any different, I don't think. But we're going to get what we need. Neptune Beach needs money, and we need more officers, and we work with Jacksonville Beach, and they work with us, and we're working on it. There's lessons learned, and next year, July the 4th is on Friday, and the following year it's on a Saturday, and we're going to work on resolving some of our issues. But
I just want to let you know that the party school was recently announced by USA Today, and they also are following up with an addition that Neptune Beach has been designated the #1 party beach.
Harry, I was in Pensacola.
I also want to announce something that we don't have on the agenda, but the cities are going through their budget process right now. If you go to our Beaches Watch website, which is beacheswatch.com, there's several meetings that are going on, workshops, and it's a great opportunity to, if you go to our website, you can see the links to the proposed budgets, and so you can learn a little bit more about what the cities are talking about spending our tax dollars on. And then also we have the dates for the budget meetings, so you can plan to go and learn a little bit more and then provide some input to our elected officials when it comes time for the approval of the budgets. Also, Tamara, who's our Beaches Branch librarian, has an announcement she wants to make as well.
Thanks, Sandy. I just wanted to let everyone know that there is going to be a Beaches Branch Library construction meeting on August the 19th, that's a Monday, at 6. They're actually going to open the branch just for that. It'll be in the community room. I'll just read quickly what it's about. The Friends will host an informal meeting to discuss repair and construction plans at the library. Attendees will include City Council President Bill Wilford, City Council Member at Large Group 2 John Crescenbenny, representatives of the City of Jacksonville Public Works Department and the Public Library, and an architect who will give an overview of plans and answer questions.
So that's August 19th?
August 19th.
6 o'clock, okay. All right, and just remind everybody, the 14th, we've got the Atlantic Beach Candidate Forum, and then September 4th, Bill Williford will be here talking about the Jacksonville budget, the library, and all the other good stuff that's going on at Jacksonville. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you again, Chief Dooley, and have a great evening.